Hello, everyone out there in Tampa Bay and beyond. This is James Hall coming at you for the RBLR Sports podcast. I am here tonight to cover the Rowdies. You already knew that. I am here tonight with my co-host, Carlos. You already knew that too, but what you didn't know is how we're doing. So, Carlos, how are you doing on this Tuesday evening?
James, I'm well. Fresh off a nap. I'm sleepy. The Tampa Bay Rowdies are back in the losing column. It sucks. Let's talk about it in a little bit. I'd be better if that game went better. I'd be better. I went to a concert last Saturday night, so I actually missed the back end of the Rowdies game live. So I had to go back and watch that on Sunday, which was not as fun to rewatch a game when you've lost. And I feel like we've been able to say that a bit on this podcast. Yeah, definitely not as fun to do those rewatches when the games aren't going as well. James, I'm well, though. It's a nice sunny evening in Arlington, Virginia, so I can't complain. How are you doing?
I am doing well. I also actually saw a concert this time on Sunday evening. We saw Kesha in her last performance of this current, or at least the last appearance in the U.S. of this current tour. I think she's going abroad after this. So that was fun, but I was well wiped on Monday, and I know where you're coming from there. But to get off of our sleep schedules and to talk about the Rowdies, which I think is what most people turned in for. If that's not the case, let us know in the comments. Maybe you do want to hear more about how we're sleeping, how we're not. But I assume that isn't. So we'll just hop into the Rowdies here. Carlos, like you said, unfortunately, they did lose on Saturday night to North Carolina FC. It was a weird loss because I honestly thought that the Rowdies did okay in moments and more than anything shot themselves in the foot, probably in both goals. And ultimately they couldn't get the leveler of their own. So that was unfortunate. But we also have to cover not just that loss, but a game coming up this weekend because the Rowdies are finally hosting again at Al Lang Stadium. Specifically, they will be playing Phoenix Rising. And more specifically than that, it is the original era night. As we started before the beginning of this season, it is the 50th anniversary of the founding of this club. So the front office staff have organized multiple events to try and celebrate that, including this upcoming Saturday, the original era night, which will include a lot of events related specifically to the players who were involved in those original teams from the 70s and the 80s, possibly up into the 90s if we're talking about indoor. So we'll see. But I don't know all that's going on there. We have literally one detail that we can share because that was all that we were provided. So we will provide that detail. But we'll get into that later when we do our preview. In the meantime, we need to do our review of the loss. So before we get into that, like and subscribe to us on YouTube, any major podcast platform. And of course, please follow us on all your social medias, Instagram, Twitter, TikTok, Facebook, Threads, Blue Sky, wherever at RBLR Sports. And let's get into that quick recap. So beforehand, I do want to say the Rowdies also made another signing. We have actually made a couple of signings that we haven't been able to cover in great detail because of different things going on, including, a new manager. But the Rowdies made a player signing over the last week, announcing that Charlie Sharp had joined the club on loan. So interesting move there. He actually played a role in this game, and we're going to get into that probably a little bit later. The starting 11, though, was Ethan Bandre. In the defensive unit was Thomas Van Kaziel, Robert Castellanos, Aaron Guillen, a midfield of Nick Moon, Lawrence White, Danny Crisostomo, Lewis Hilton, and Joey Skinner. And up top were Rubens Pacius and Luis Alvarez, despite scoring first off of a very, very nice goal. Honestly, one of the best goals I've seen us score this season, if not even longer than that. So I was pretty happy with the early goings of this game, and it's really unfortunate that we couldn't hold on to that lead, and even more so that ultimately when North Carolina leveled the game, they were able to then take the lead right before halftime, and we could not, as I said, get that back in the second half. That was honestly unfortunate, especially when we get into what happened in roughly the 70th minute. Anybody who remembers that, they know what I'm talking about immediately and why I'm so upset that we could not level the game. Standings update real quickly. Louisville City beat Charleston to take the overall lead in the standings, but unfortunately more close to home. Let's look at the Rowdies. We are bottom of the table again. So in the Eastern Conference, Louisville City lead with 44, Charleston 41. North Carolina stay third with 29 points ahead of Loudoun, who have 28 points. They have stalled out over the course of, I guess, roughly the summer. We are 4 points out of the playoffs at this point, which is not that bad. But you do have to remember that there are a bunch of teams who are competing for those positions. So we are bottom of the table. We're not down and out, but there's a lot of people who are going to try and do the exact same stuff that we are doing right now. And that is making the playoffs. Out west, Tulsa leads with a 38-point spread. Really good from Tulsa. I did not expect that, in all honesty. Sacramento have finally found their feet, and they are in second with 30 points. San Antonio have 28 points. El Paso have 27 points. And surprisingly or unsurprisingly, Las Vegas are bottom of the table out west. They're not bottom of the entire table. Unfortunately, that is us, but they are bottom of the table out west. So their turnaround was quick-lived, I suppose. At the same time, real good news here from, or I mean, I guess it's good news for us. Birmingham lost one of their attacking players. Producer Eureka has just told us that Oakland got Danny Trejo from Birmingham. I don't know if that's a loan or a permanent signing, but regardless, he is no longer with Birmingham, and that does help us out probably, at least in the short term. I think we at least have one more game against them. So, let's get into the actual review of the game itself here, Carlos.
Yeah.
How did this one go for you? Like I said, I'll do my quick take on it. I thought that the first half, honestly we were doing pretty well. I thought that we were playing pretty well. I think the fact that we were on regular grass and not turf did help us out when we were trying to play out of the back with possession. I think that we had some pretty good signs. In particular, God, that goal was awesome. One of the best goals I've seen the Rowdies score in a long, long time.
So well worked.
One touch passing from 1, 2, 3, 4 players in a row. One touch passing from 4 players in a row. And it was really unfortunate, both of the goals that we gave up. I think that one of them was unjust, and I think that one of them was just unfortunate, let's say. But probably both of them avoidable, at least. Let's go with that. So I'll turn it over to you, Carlos. Do you think that it was a deserved result for North Carolina? And what was your take on their goals?
So this game, I mean, it's always frustrating to lose, even more so in the season where every point means all that much more right now, right? And to reference the table you just ran through again, 4 points out of the playoffs, even after the loss, even after the season we've had this year, is ridiculous. Like, there really shouldn't be a world where like we're competing for a playoff spot still after the season we've had. But the reality of U.S. soccer, we've talked about that before, right? On top of that, several of the teams in front of us, in that little 4-point gap, have a game or 2 games in hand. Right, Indy 11 has 2 games in hand. Hartford on 22 points has 2 games in hand. Miami has 2 games in hand. We have 2 games in hand, all those teams, or 1 game in hand, right? So you have this room to really make a push where even if you fold off, I don't know, to jump ahead to North Carolina's goals, right? Even if you avoid that mistake, and Luis Alvarez maybe a little bit more careful when he's just kind of throwing the ball back towards our back line, right? Or if we have a slightly more available and competent ref on that, frankly, what seemed like a ghost penalty, right?
What seemed like a ghost penalty to me.
It's frustrating because you knock out either one of those goals and Rowdies are on 18 points and it's only 3 points away with those games in hand. So it's really interesting because despite how everything's gone this year, you are still pretty well positioned to make a push. And if you look at the next few games, you have 3 home games in the next 4 games, right? There'll be some, quality opponents in there, plus an away game to Detroit, who's fallen off quite a bit in this middle portion of the year. So there's a lot of room immediately in the next month or so to really make up ground. And it's frustrating because we were one bad call, one mistake away from continuing that climb this past weekend.
Yeah.
Especially in that first half. It was a solid first half. Second half, we were slow, right?
Yeah,
but in the first half,
that's fair to say.
But I don't think North Carolina was anything out of the ordinary either, right? And that's how, like, you have two teams on the field, and unfortunately, I think one team just got, I don't know, a little bit luckier than we did.
Yeah. Which you could say happened to us a couple of times in the last run of our few games, going back to probably against Hartford. But yeah, it's unfortunate, obviously, that the tables turned on that.
Oh, definitely. And it's just, and you look at Hartford, or sorry, not Hartford, right? North Carolina's big chances, right? It was literally their only two clear chances of the game. And I'll throw a caveat in here, but their two big chances, according to FOMOB, would have been the penalty, which I just don't think should have been called. Like, taking off my biased hat, right? Those are those moments where you kind of beg for a VAR situation to be around, right? Because it quite literally dictated the outcome here. 1 point versus no points for us. And then a mistake from our midfield guy in Luis Alvarez, which is just highly unfortunate. The ball's kind of looping towards him in the middle, and I think he was just way too careless with just chucking it back towards our back line. In a perfect world, your back line is fast as hell and they can catch up to Conway. But I honestly don't really blame Castellanos for not being able to catch up to Conway. I mean, it was so unexpected. Conway is a pretty quick striker based on what we saw. And Castellanos was, forced to use his speed, quote unquote, which is not really his strong suit, let's say, right?
Let's say.
I mean, these are big center back guys. You have them back there because they're sturdy, big guys that can, clear away the headers and whatnot. And he just that's not his game, right? So I'm going to chalk that first goal for North Carolina up to Luis Alvarez's mistake. Unfortunate, just a bit of carelessness. And then their second goal, like I said, ghost penalty. If you zoom out and you start to think about what North Carolina had in the rest of this game, and I'm forgetting at what point this was, but this was in the second half. I want to say earlier on, they had a corner kick with a header that actually did hit the post. So, you know what? I'll give them that one as well. Maybe the soccer gods balanced out, a really tough post with a ghost penalty, but the soccer gods weren't fair to us because, we'll talk about this missed goal later on that you mentioned earlier in a second. So I don't know. It's always like weird looking at games and being like, oh, well, they got this opportunity here and they didn't finish even though they should have. So it like balances out. Like, you're kind of playing a game of like XG that, I don't know, at the end of the day, it doesn't matter because you look at the scoreboard and you still lost, right?
Exactly.
You zoom ahead in a game like this where it seems like every goal is going to matter since there's not a ton of chances in either direction. And you look at the moment where Charlie Sharp, right, new guy on the field, he honestly, personally looks to be pretty exciting. He's not producing a ton of goals for Toronto or Toronto 2 in his time with them. He's in his second professional year of soccer. But in 2023, when he was at Western Michigan, he was the leading goal scorer in the country in college soccer. Say what you will about college soccer in the U.S., but with how many teams there are in the country and how many good strikers there are at that level, like, it's an impressive feat, right? He was a finalist for what's essentially like the MVP of college soccer, the Mac Herman Trophy. He's 6'5", crazy build, and he seems to be pretty quick for that size, just based on like the little bit we saw of him against North Carolina. Unfortunately, what you're supposed to do as a striker is put the ball in the back of the net.
Yeah.
And like, I have a lot of leeway for people as they kind of come in and celebrate, or not celebrate. Sorry, I just got an email. I'm on like Kartik's email list. He just sent me I saw like the new headline about celebrating the 50th anniversary. I'm like blending words together right now. I'm so tired. I have a lot of leeway for guys as they settle in with a new team. You have to like be cautious or conscious of that. It's a hard transition, whatever. So I can like totally understand a bad game, right? Settling in, trying to figure things out. But like, hit that opportunity he had in, what was the 68th, 69th minute to tie the game was a sitter. Like, that was the easiest goal any of our strikers would have ever had in their career.
I think it's one of those ones that when you're growing up, you could say even my grandmother would make that.
Yeah. I bet you more than one person in the Rouse Mob Discord or casual Rowdies fans at home said something along those lines, maybe more explicitly or with an expletive in there. Dude, like I like this kid. I think he has a pretty cool upside to him. Even if the numbers aren't backing that up with his time in Toronto or anything, but I think he has a pretty good future. But like that sucked. That sucked to see. It would have been an incredible introduction if you could just, slot that one away. That's one of those high XG looks, if we're talking about XG, that you cannot miss in a game like this, right? It's a 1-goal game. North Carolina's given a ghost penalty. Every point matters right now as we crawl back. That's the one that's going to haunt me for a couple of weeks, and especially now. Again, we're talking about being 4 points out of the playoff spot. There's many plays this year that will live in my head rent free for a long time. That might be one of them for sure.
Yeah.
Other than that, though, like again, I said the second half was quiet for us, and it's true. Had a couple shots that were not super threatening. Martiaga, one from Hilton towards the end of the game, but nothing crazy. First half was really where I think we shined. We slowed down. Then we had a brief moment with that Charlie Sharp opportunity that we just had to put away. Wasn't our best game, James, but I don't feel like this is one that we outright deserve to lose for sure.
No.
So that's where I'm at broadly.
Yeah. I mean, obviously from what I said earlier, I think that I would tend to agree with that. My issue is, the second half was not as good as the first half. I think that we were a lot more fluid with the ball in the first half. I think that we were a lot more, maybe this wasn't over and over, but I do think that there was the goal. I think that there were a couple of other moments as well where we could have created something that was similar to that. And I think that we just probably did better probably on both ends in the first half, which is weird to say, obviously, because we gave up 2 goals in the first half. But I do think that. I think that if you remove the mistake and you remove the non-call, then we probably look at that first half and go, that was really good. Even if you just include the mistake, honestly, let's say if you just include the mistake, you say that's still a pretty good first half away from home. You're playing on a good field, so you have a good surface and you have a nice platform to express yourself, so to speak. I think that the Rowdies were doing really well at doing that. It was interesting, the back line, the way that they lined up. Obviously, they have mostly been with 3 at the back. We've seen them try to build possession out from a deeper position for the last couple of games now, assuming that's part of Dominic Casciato's preferred plans. And in this specific game, I don't know if this was something that developed as a game plan or if it developed because of the way that North Carolina was trying to press us. But we had Lewis Hilton, Danny Crisostomo, and Lawrence Weick all very close to the back line. So it was almost a 3-3 and then a 2-2 with the first 2 being the fullbacks, well out wide, obviously. And then the second 2 being Luis Alvarez, who was more playing on the left side, and Wubens Passius, who was more playing on the right side. It was interesting to see. I did like the way that Joey Skinner was playing when he was out there. I did like a lot of what I saw from Nick Moon. They were both, honestly, again, very highly involved in all of our attacking plays. Yeah. Again, on the right side, Moon, Passius, and Lawrence Weick were doing a lot of the buildup. On the left side, it was actually Hilton, Alvarez, and Skinner, not even Crisostomo. He was really holding it down in the middle. So when the goal came about, it was a switch, I think, from Lawrence Weick that fell to Wubens Passius. 1 touch to Hilton, 1 touch to Skinner, 1 touch to Alvarez, 1 touch back to Hilton, who then got the shot. And that was because Lewis Hilton was aligned more so on the left side. I don't know if this is a thing to try and put him in positions where he can get those shots off. It's not something that he does a lot, but we have seen him let's say probably Carlos, once a year, maybe once a year, Lewis Hilton has a goal like that. So maybe this is going to put him in a position to get a couple more shots off, maybe more than once a year. That would be nice. But I did like the way that the team had set up is what I'm trying to get at here. If we could nail down the patterns, that is really good. And I think that it bodes well for the future, but the future is very short right now. 2025 in the USL Championship it's coming up fast. We're almost halfway through August. We will be by the time we play the game that we're going to preview shortly. That means you have effectively 2 months left to try and do anything. And again, we're 4 points out of the playoff positions, but the time is running out because all of the other teams that are within this little glut all of us right here are all trying to beat each other every single week for those precious points. And it's going to be very difficult. It's really unfortunate that this is the way that it went, that the luck was so against us in this one. We got Luis Alvarez with the weird pass back. We got the penalty call, and then we got the Charlie Sharp miss. So it's unfortunate. And I still like the signs of progress, but we're running out of time. We're running out of space for just signs of progress, right? We still have to put points up on the board. Carlos, what else are we missing from this game?
No, yeah. And to focus on again what you were saying, like, this is something I was just curious about. I was bored yesterday. I threw a question in the Rouse Mob general Discord chat, trying to get a feel for where folks were at in terms of the rest of the season, because we're, a few days removed now from that game. Everyone's super frustrated at that point. And it's interesting to me to see kind of where the attitude is, like the comments on social media, like Twitter, on Facebook, in terms of the headspace around, like, is the season over and we're kind of just building for next year at this point, just kind of having fun at these games, right? Is there a chance, but we're not really totally sold yet, or are we in the playoff believers boat, right? It was a mixed bag, right, of folks. I tend to be on the more positive end of that, because I look at these, again, I'm looking at the table, and you look at 8th place Rhode Island on 21 points. Again, we're on 17. Rhode Island's played 2 more games than us. Indy's played the same amount of games as us. They're in 9th place. In 10th place, Miami, 3 points ahead. 1 more game than us, right? Birmingham Legion is 2 points ahead of us in 11th place. They've played 2 more games than us. Even, you go further. Like, it's really interesting to see how, again, there's space here to make these jumps. When you have that extra game in hand. So it's just a matter of capitalizing on that. And I'm not saying because we have those games in hand, it's going to actually mean anything, because we've lost a lot this year, right? So it's not out of the realm of possibility that we just lose that extra game in hand, or that extra 2 games in hand in the case of Birmingham and Rhode Island. But again, you make a good point. Like, we see these signs of improvement. It's very clear. We're not losing games at this point in the year in, like, embarrassing fashion, or in a clearly decisive manner, right? This loss against North Carolina was an unlucky call, or an unlucky bounce away from being a totally different type of result. This weekend, you go at home. We'll talk about the game against Phoenix. You're going to start a different type of the season, different part of the season. You've been away for so long. Now you're coming back to a more normal type of season, which includes 4 home games in the next 5 games you play. So it's really interesting. You're at a really interesting time for the Rowdies. Obviously, the year's not gone the way you've wanted it to, but you're at a really fascinating point where I think you're going to see the attitude around where the players are at, right? How are they going to come out against Phoenix? Like, are we excited to be back at home on this 50th anniversary night? Are we going for it all, making up that ground, using the extra game in hand to make up points on the teams ahead of us, right? Or are we gonna, I don't know, play like we have played at home this year, right? Which has not been ideal. It's been a lot of losses. To kind of give you a couple thoughts I had on this North Carolina game before I keep rambling about the next couple months or so. It was interesting to me that Skinner started, right? We found out that Bodley, I think, just had like sickness, some sort of sickness that day. Bodley's been our regular starter out there on that left side. It was unfortunate to see he's missing, because he's been playing great soccer recently. But to reiterate what you said, Skinner had a great game. Skinner was pretty good. He was a total wild card for me this year as a whole. I kind of assumed he would just be a depth piece that we didn't see much of. But even going back to Coleman's, head coach stint with the Rowdies this year, he's liked bringing in Skinner later on in games, last like 20, 30 minutes or so. He's been solid in those performances. I was really impressed with the starting full 90 Skinner that we saw this weekend. Not something we've seen from him. He just had what have we talked about guys who kind of play these wingback roles sometimes, like serviceable, incredible. Like we talked about Ancaziel a lot this year as a serviceable player. I think Skinner was serviceable and even a little bit more so than I expected him to be. Like created in the attack as well, got back on the back line to support the defensive effort as well. He was all around solid, and just a shout out to him because it's not what I expected out of him this year. So positive things all around from him. And you look across the rest of the field, like you can say mostly positive things about the guys individually in this game. There's good moments for most of the guys on the field. Again, you look at that Luis Alvarez mistake and think, man, like maybe you could have had a bit better judgment in that moment, right? But overall, like good moments from most of the guys on the field. I love the attacking, like Hamba you mentioned in the goal. Just a lot of great one-touch soccer. Like it's coming together in the attack for sure. My other thing that I found interesting over the last few games is that we've seen White move away from being just a certified backline guy as he's been this year. We've seen him move up the field slightly into the more central midfield part of this team. I've thought it's been really interesting. He looked okay in this game. I liked what he was able to do. He's a really interesting player and how he's able to get the ball up the field. He's super quick. He has all the right attributes to be really good in that area of the field. And he is. Side note, Mikey Maldonado, new annoying player on my annoying USL player list.
I think that's actually pretty fair. That's a good note.
I get that Lawrence White has a way of getting under people's skin. Mikey Maldonado was so annoying, especially at the beginning part of this game. Oh my God. But whatever. I digress. Lawrence White is incredible at getting under people's skin. And being in that part of the field and doing so, like, great stuff. So keep that up from him. Overall, just like it's unfortunate because you want to say really, really positive things about everyone on the field, and you mostly can. Even looking at like FOTMob, and you look at the ratings, Casillas had a 5.9 FOTMob rating in this game. Like he was super involved in that first goal, right? He didn't score it, but he was able to bring that touchdown. He had to come out of position to get that long ball that came in from either White or Moon. It was brought that down. He didn't have a 3 or any goal game, right? But he was able to influence the game in that way. Like everyone had a role in this game. I think it's really unfortunate that we lost because I have mostly positive things to say about everyone on the field at some point in this game. So it sucks. Sharp, I hope we see more of him because I really like him, but I hope we're not talking about him in this way after the next time he gets a, like that. Did we see anything out of Asokar in this game? He came in the 70th minute. I didn't really notice him all that much.
Yeah.
I think he's another guy that will, I don't know. He's barely had minutes so far this year with us. I think he can be a good utility player. We'll wait to see how it turns out. Casciato really likes him. We talked about that earlier on in the year, or earlier on when we signed him. He really, really highlighted how much he likes Asokar and his, ability, and then he wanted to get him at Union Omaha. So I'm hoping he's not kind of just a sitting on the bench player, and we actually see kind of what Casciato saw in him too.
Right.
So yeah. Did we miss anything else on this game? Skinner, I wanted to highlight. White, wanted to highlight. Dancaziel has settled in nicely on the back line, by the way. I think he's been great back there. We've seen him move around a lot this year, right? From central midfield to the right wing back to now more of the back line. He settled in nicely back there. Let's keep him back there. Let's keep it up. I like him being there with White kind of moving up into more in the midfield. I think that's a great situation we got back there going forward. Bondre, can we say anything about Bondre in this game, James?
I don't think that he failed to do anything. I don't think that he I guess stood out either on the other side of it though, So what are you going to do? It's very hard to save a penalty.
Yeah. Can't say much. Bassett came in, played okay as well. Set up that opportunity for Sharp, I think. Arteaga quiet, which we could see a little bit more, but again, just not much going in the attack later on in this game anyway when he came on. So That's about all we have. About all I have on my end. Lasso didn't come in, which I think is always unfortunate when a player kind of returns to their hometown area. His whole family was there. By the way, a good chunk of Rowdies fans were scattered throughout that stadium. Like every time there was a different camera angle, there was a new Rowdies fan that I saw in the stand. So good turnout down there in Cary, North Carolina. Yeah, James, anything else you want to throw in here?
I think we're ready to get to the man of the match if you're good.
Yeah, I think we've talked this one to death. It's unfortunate overall headlines. Didn't deserve to lose outright necessarily. Yep. I think a draw would have been the most fair result. I'll give you my man of the match now. We can jump into that. I think for me, it was easy to say it's Lewis Hilton, my man of the match. He was involved in so much of our attack, our limited attack in the second half. He was around. In the first half, he obviously scored that banger of a goal. He seemed to get more confident too after scoring that. Like you could see him wanting to rip more shots from outside the box. He had at least one decent look later on in the game, right towards the end of the game, when things kind of weren't really falling for us. He said, "Screw it, I'll do it myself again," and ripped a shot from outside the box. I went just high. It was a good look, great chance. I'm not mad at taking that shot when things kind of weren't really going anywhere in the attack. And again, just really well worked on that goal in the first half as well. He's Lewis Hilton. He's quietly been one of the best midfielders in the league for how many years now?
Yeah.
And he did it again in this game. So, hopefully we see him get more and more comfortable with that leg outside the box. We've seen it, like you said, at points throughout his career with the Rowdies. Maybe once a year we see a goal like that from Lewis Hilton. He has it in his arsenal, but he often doesn't let it fly. Like he just doesn't really take those chances if they're there, opting for playing it out wide, looking for the guys to cross those balls in. I think especially how we've been playing this year collectively, we have an open runway for Lewis Hilton to rip those shots more and be okay with that if they sail high or wide every once in a while. He's got it in his bag, so I'd like to see more of it. Great stuff from him.
Yeah. Well, I was leaning towards, for the sake of being different, I was leaning towards Luis Alvarez, but in all honesty, as well as he played, he was unfortunately at fault for the first goal. So I had to go ultimately with the same choice as Carlos, and that was Lewis Hilton. Lewis Hilton had an incredible game overall, I would say.
Yeah.
I thought Luis Alvarez had a very good game, but Luis had the goal in the other direction. In addition, he had an assist, honestly, you could say, on both the first and second goals of the game. It's just that only one of them was for the Rowdies. So that's the unfortunate way to look at it. I couldn't give it to Luis Alvarez based on that, so I gave it to Lewis Hilton. Lewis continues, though, and I hope to see more offensive production from those two. Absolutely. So let's move on now because we've got to get to the Original Era Night preview coming up here. But before I do that, liking and subscribing is free. If you think you might need some new threads for the rest of the season, hopefully before we get into the playoffs, you can support our podcast a little bit more by heading over to shop.rblrsports.com, checking out all the designs that we've got cooked up there. There will be a link in the description. And if you do find something you like, which I bet you will, there will be a promo code COYR that will get you 10% off of your order. So please use that when you get there and you find what you want to buy. Yep. All right, let's do the preview for this upcoming weekend. This Saturday at 9 p.m. Yes, please remember 9 p.m., not 7:30, 9 p.m. The Rowdies will be playing Phoenix in their Original Era Night festivities. As far as I'm aware, they will be playing in these new jerseys. The new jerseys that they have advertised on all their social medias. So please check that out. If you have not seen the new jerseys, there are, I guess, some social medias, honestly, not even Rowdies related, just like some social medias. I think it was CBS Golasso show that point, like, is this the coolest new jersey of the season? And, hey, could be.
The answer is yes. Yeah.
The answer is up to you. And if you're a Rowdies fan, then the answer is yes. But if you want to get one of those jerseys, one of those new original era jerseys, new original era jerseys. Please be aware that there will be jerseys for sale at the game. As far as I'm aware, though, there are less than 1,000 jerseys. That is our detail that we were provided by the club. That is the detail related to. We don't know anything else related to the events that they have lined up. Other than that, there will be original era players involved. So, keep that in mind, obviously. But there will also be jerseys for sale at least, or not at least, but less than 1,000. Once they're gone, they're gone. That is direct from Eureka, who got it directly from the club. So keep that in mind, folks. Now, let's talk about the actual game coming up here, because we do want to talk about that. 9 p.m. prime time, all across the country, and but if you're a Rowdies fan, you should just be at the stadium. There are going to be lots of events beforehand. You can take part in everything and hopefully have a lot of fun while you're doing it. To talk about the opposition, Phoenix are in 8th in the Western Conference. They have 24 points from their 19 games played, and they have, to be fair, only one win in their last 6 games, as well as a draw that went to penalties, which they won in the Jaeger Cup. So not the best record recently. Just need to know that going in. They won against El Paso in the penalty shootout in the Jaeger Cup, and then their actual win was also away from home. It should be noted against Oakland, a pretty poor team right now out west, but you got to say the Rowdies are not doing much better. We are below Oakland in the overall table. So another thing that we have to keep in mind. Phoenix like to play in either a 4-3-3 or a 4-1-4-1 formation, almost the same depending on how you look at it. Patrick Rakowski will probably be in net behind Colin Smith, Asel Aseng, Ryan Flood, and Emil Cuejo. I want to point out that back line has changed quite a bit. Colin Smith did not start the last 2 games. It has specifically changed most recently when one defender from their academy, Braxton Montgomery, went off to college, I believe at Rutgers. But the point is, he was starting a lot of their games across the back line, so they have had to shuffle things a little bit. And so we might see a couple changes there from what I just listed here. Their midfield will most likely, might not be, but most likely Carl Sante or Nobly Okello as the defensive midfielder behind Zion Emmers and Hope Avievu. Lots of weird names here, in all honesty, but that's how it goes in soccer, right? Hope Avievu is one that you need to keep an eye on, and I will tell you why as we get on through this preview. Attackers should be, or could be, Charlie Dennis, Izan Sacco, and Darius Formella, or Darius Johnson. You have to choose if you want Darius or Darius. We're going to have to see. Sacco has 6 goals in all competitions, and Hope Avievu, want to return to him, has 5 goals and 8 assists in the league. I believe he is 21 years old, so he is getting looks from above, let's say MLS or probably elsewhere too. There are some good attacking pieces within this Phoenix team. I don't think they're doing as well as we probably expected they would, or they're not doing as well as their fans would like them to do. I don't care about that personally. But they do have danger men out there. Colin Smith has been all around the USL in the past, and he has burned us in a couple of games. That's their possibly starting right back. So just remember his name while you're there. And who else did I want to? Oh, Charlie Dennis, obviously. Charlie Dennis was the other player that I wanted to highlight, a former Rowdies player who we sold, I think, in the middle of last season off to Phoenix. And he scored, I think he scored the winner in their last game too. So, or the last winning goal that they had scored, I should say. All of those things are important to keep in mind while we line up against Phoenix. I would like to get a good win in this one, not just because we need 3 points, also because it's original error night, not just because it's original error night, but also because we need 3 points. It's kind of a circular logic there, but both of them are true for this particular game. So, Carlos, what else do we have on Phoenix Rising?
Yeah, Phoenix is a team that looking at their roster, and incredibly unfamiliar with so many of these players. Obviously, Charlie Dennis is on the squad. You'll recall that Damien Rivera is on this team as well. He doesn't appear a ton for them this year. Doesn't get a ton of minutes. Is kind of in a similar role as he was with the Rowdies when he was here, in that super sub kind of role. 2 goals on the year, though, not at the same level of production he was with the Rowdies last year. But he's an incredible, off the bench danger. So obviously we'll keep an eye on him as well. It'll be good to see him back. I really liked him on the Rowdies. It's unfortunate we couldn't keep him for another season. Charlie Dennis, like you said as well, former Rowdy over there. He was a tough loss as well. He was a part of that midfield that produced a lot of goals for our Rowdies in his short-ish, medium-ish amount of time with us over 2 seasons. But, we move on. I appreciate your notes on these guys because other than those 2 guys, I couldn't tell you anything about the rest of their squad. Zooming out a little bit more, they're, like you said, they are in 8th place. They're not playing particularly great soccer. They're conceding a good amount of goals over the last few games. So I think we have more than a good shot in this game. I am still having nightmares about that Charlie Sharp miss from last weekend. So I'm really, really hoping we maximize our points here. The opponents don't get much easier over the next few weeks after this.
Very important to remember.
Yeah, you go away to Detroit, who's not playing super great, but they're solid after this game. And then you're at home for 3 games in a row against 3 quality opponents. At Pittsburgh, who's finding their rhythm seriously over the last few weeks. Sacramento, former Rowdies coach Neil Collins will be there Saturday, September 6th. That'll be a really fun one to go to. I'm sure it'll be great to see him back in the stadium. I hope we kick their butts, but it'll be cool to see Neil back. They're in 2nd place. Colorado Springs is playing decent soccer out west. They're in 6th place as well. So all that to say that this is your quote-unquote easiest, it's kind of relative, opponent over the next month or so. You're playing at home. You fully need to take advantage of it. No game is easy when you're in last place and you've been, at least on points, the worst team in the league, right? Every team's probably looking at you as their easy, soft game, right? I don't think that's fair. The guys on the field are so talented. We have a really good-looking roster on paper, and you've seen the bits and pieces start to come together. You've seen the wins rack up ever since that really impressive. I think that Indy win in June was kind of that point in my head where I said, okay, we still have a chance to do this. That Indy win at home after the rain delay. After that, we stacked up wins against Naples, Hartford, Indy again. Tough loss against North Carolina this past weekend. Tough loss against San Antonio when we played them away. I feel like the draw was more than earned over there. Charleston, that Jägermeister Cup, I'll throw that one away. That was a bad game, but Jägermeister Cup doesn't matter. I don't care about that tournament, James. I didn't even know it was a real thing. I can say that now that we're out. But looking ahead, I'm excited for this weekend for a variety of reasons. Like you said, if you're a fan of this team, absolutely be there. It's a late kickoff. I can't really imagine a better place to pregame your night in downtown St. Pete than with the Rowdies. Plenty of drink deals, by the way, too. I saw $5 beers. Was that right? At this game, there's some other drink
There's
deals.
no reason not to go, is what we're saying.
Yeah.
Even if you're from Cincinnati.
Even if you're from Cincinnati, it's my girlfriend's mom. Hi, Stephanie. Tuning in. So again, lots of reasons to be at this game. I really, really, really want to see us get these 3 points. I want to see us get 3 points every week, but I think this is a really important opportunity for us. I'll give you one more reason why this is important, James. This is no secret, we have been lackluster this year, right? It's been a bad season. There's plenty of moments we want to erase from our memory. And unfortunately, a lot of those moments this year have come at home. We played a lot of bad games at home this year. It's unfortunate. It's a reality, though. If we want to keep building to next year, regardless of if we make the playoffs or not, it'd be ideal, right? If you want to keep building towards something for next year, you have to give, especially the more casual fans, right, something to be excited about, right? We're losing a lot of games at home. This is a really fun opportunity with the celebration, with the nationally televised game, 9 p.m. You have an opportunity to show maybe the more casual, maybe the folks that don't listen to RBLR every week, you have an opportunity to show them that the Rowdies still play good soccer. We're here. Maybe you don't even know where we are on the table, but it was a fun night and the Rowdies won the game, right? If you're casual and you're coming to a game every once in a while, you've been to a few games this year, you're not seeing a great product on the field, and it's not fun. right? Games are more fun when we're winning. More people go to games when we're winning. It's just how it goes, right? This is an opportunity to kind of start to turn things around in that sense too, right? We're playing great games away. We've seen them on TV. I think it's really, really important to kind of keep setting that tone and keep that momentum of good performances, but now bring it home, nationally televised game in front of what's hopefully a good crowd to keep building on the momentum. Again, you have 3 home games after that, after the following weekend in Detroit, 3 home games. You got to give people a reason to go to these games because unfortunately, not everyone is as sicko as you and me, James, or everyone in like the Ralph's Mob circles or the Skyway casual circles, right? So for a variety of reasons, really, really big game this weekend, I think.
Yep. Well said, Carlos. Let's get into our predictions. While we wait for producer Eureka to send his, I had mine already set up. So, Carlos, I will go ahead and start if that's all right with you. I am predicting, and this is not necessarily exactly how I feel deep down in my gut, in my heart of hearts, but I am going with the vibes, and the vibes are good. It's original air night. We're gonna have people there. It's national TV, prime time. I'm gonna say a 3-1 win to the Rowdies.
Wow. Well, that's coming from James, right? And we if you've listened to this podcast before, James,
I'm the Debbie Downer usually.
You tended to be the more realist in this duo, right? But if you're going with the win, then I have to go with the win too, right? I mean, that's how it works, right? I mentioned that Phoenix is conceding a good amount of goals over the last few games, and not necessarily to teams that are, known for incredible goal production or anything. Lexington has been very bad this year. They got a comfortable 2-0 win against Phoenix at home last weekend. They conceded 3 against a Birmingham team that has been awful this year too. They conceded 4 to Orange County the week before that. It's actually been okay, but nothing to write home about. If all these teams are scoring good amount of goals on multiple goals on Phoenix, I'm going to say I agree with that trend, and we're going to win this game 2-0. We'll get another shutout on the year. It'll be at home. It'll be a nice, comfortable 2-0 win. And we're
shutout would be good.
Yeah, we're all going to be really happy about it, and everyone's going to be happy, and everyone's going to go to the bars in downtown after because it'll be 11 p.m. and we'll all be vibing. And the Rowdies will be back, James. After that, right, again, we're so, it's incredible that with the season that we've played, we're, right there in the cusp of the playoff hunt, right? It's ridiculous. It's U.S. soccer. It's magical. It's playoffs. It's awesome, right? You still have a chance. Why not make a run? Why not start it at home this weekend? 9 p.m. kickoff, drink specials, go to the game. I think it's a great time to start that run. Whether you listen to this on YouTube, Twitter, follow us on all the social media, it's just however you're seeing this podcast this week, bring a friend, bring 2 friends. I think we have the opportunity to really build on some momentum this weekend. So
I agree.
It's up to the players to really follow through on it, but I think we can play a part in the stands. So be at that game. It'll be a fun one, I think.
There we go. All right, everyone. We have discussed the original air night. Remember, there are going to be a lot of events, a lot of fan activation, as they call it. So if you want to be activated as a fan, make sure you're at this game. I think that there's every reason to be there.
Absolutely.
We're gonna get these 3 points. That's my hope.
Let's get activated.
Let's get activated.
In the stands, on the field, in the table. Let's get activated. Let's activate playoff mode, James. How about that?
There we go. I really like that, Carlos. We can activate playoff mode instead of sicko mode like we're usually doing.
Absolutely.
Let's move on to our extra time segment. So usually we'll add a couple things about, the USL. The Sun, by the way, are coming up. Just keep that in mind. They do not start play next week, but the weekend or the next week after that, they'll be playing on the weekend. So
very short off season. Yeah.
But we are talking about something related to soccer that is, I'm getting to bring my absolute sicko mode soccer into this episode because I have brought it back and related it to RBLR Sports. So everyone listening, here we go. Carlos knows where this is going, but it is very silly. The Marshall Islands are an island chain in the middle of the Pacific Ocean. They are a sovereign country. Therefore, they would be eligible for FIFA membership had they fulfilled all of the qualifications for membership, which they cannot do. One of those qualifications means they have to have multiple full-size hotels and a stadium of a certain size. They do not have either of those because it is literally an atoll of a couple of islands. They don't have like the space to build this. So the Marshall Islands have effectively been barred from most international soccer. And if not barred, they just generally have also not been able to participate in a lot because it's also cost prohibitive to get there or get off of there. All of that being said, the Marshall Islands are dealing with climate change and everything that I just talked about. There's a large Marshallese population within the United States, specifically in Arkansas. So in Arkansas, they are hosting the Outrigger Cup. The Outrigger Cup is an outgrowth of Marshall Island soccer trying to build up a soccer infrastructure for Marshallese people and the Marshall Islands ultimately on the islands themselves. In the meantime, they are playing this tournament, and this will be the Marshall Islands' first ever international tournament of senior 11-a-side soccer.
Hell yeah.
It's amazing that this is still happening in the world, that there are countries that have never played international games. When you think about how deep the sport goes back in our history across the entire planet, but it is true. And the Marshall Islands are playing their first ever tournament. Now, how did this get back to RBLR Sports? Well, I put down a sponsorship, as anybody can do, for one of their players in the name of RBLR Sports. And that player is Cullen Taranga. He is our guy. He is our favorite Marshallese player. He's originally from the Solomon Islands, but he lived in the Marshall Islands for some amount of time. Carlos, you have a little bit more information on him if you want to go into that. But this is our guy, and we're supporting the Marshall Islands in the Outrigger Cup this weekend. If you want to get the online tickets, you can do that as well. They are available through the website, which can be found on their social media, Marshall Islands Soccer Federation. I'm sure Eureka has posted that on our own as well. But we've retweeted a couple of things, including our named sponsorship of player Cullen Taranga and all of the stuff related to the Marshall Islands. If we can get somebody from the Federation on the podcast, we also are trying to do that. But just keep in mind, we are actually involved. We are supporting some soccer here. And I just had to put this out there for everybody. The tickets, by the way, if you want the online ticket for all 5 games that are part of this tournament, is only $15. It's not that bad. Carlos, I turn it over to you.
There you go. I think the individual game stream tickets were like $5 too. If you're just locked in on the Marshall Islands games, like I'll be, that's the way to do it too. You can just watch the Marshall Island games for I think it's $5 per game. By the way, Cullen Taranga, this kid who 18 years old, can't say I know much about him before we locked in on this RBLR Marshall Islands national soccer team partnership we got going on now. I saw his little bio that they have for him on their website. Cullen Taranga, 18, born and raised in the Solomon Islands. Cullen has lived on the Marshall Islands for 2.5 years. His favorite team is Chelsea, and his GOAT's Cristiano Ronaldo. Controversial take, but that's okay. Cullen played for the Marshall Islands national futsal team at the 2024 Outrigger Challenge Cup. And he also, fun fact, does not like going to school. That's their fun fact they include in there.
I love that.
Double fun fact. I'll throw in my own here. He was their top scorer at last year's futsal Outrigger National Cup. Or Challenge Cup. So this is a tournament that they've done as in futsal form. It looks like this will be the first year they're doing full 11-on-11 form. It's just a really fun story, by the way. It's worth our time talking about it because, like you said, James threw some of his own cash in to sponsor one of the players. It's a really cool story. It's kind of grassroots soccer at its finest, like bringing together a community that really hasn't had that level of infrastructure to play full 11-on-11 soccer. There's not a lot of space on these islands, like just physically, right? It's really cool that they're able to do something like this. At first it would seem very random in a place like Arkansas, but when you look into it, like you said, solid sized Marshallese population over there. By the way, the teams that are playing against Marshall Islands in this, the other 3 teams are the U.S. Virgin Islands national team, the Turks and Caicos Islands national team, and then Ozark United U19s. Ozark United will be the USL Championship team. That's in Ozark, in Rogers, Arkansas. So I guess they have like an academy system going already. Maybe the U19 squad that they'll field in this tournament. But again, this is peak sicko soccer, but cool stories around it. It's actually, and it's not something that's totally kind of fringe soccer either. I've seen a lot of bigger outlets talking about this. A lot of big accounts on Twitter that have been also sponsoring players. And
it's one of the last countries to play their first ever games. I think that's pretty good.
Yeah. So they claim to be the last country without a national team that's played a game. So this is cool. By the way, they have sick jerseys. If you want to go check those out, they have incredible kits that you can go and support. They're also not too expensive either, so you can go ahead and buy them for a reasonable price. But again, that Challenge Cup starts tomorrow, I believe.
Mm-hmm.
Marshall Islands is first
tomorrow,
game.
Which is Wednesday when the podcast drops, if you're listening.
Yeah, tomorrow, if you're listening to this live right now. The Marshallese first game is on August 14th against the Virgin Islands in Springdale, Arkansas. It just sounds so random, but it's awesome. This is great stuff. I'm really, really happy that James kind of loops us into this world because I think it's a cool story that we all get to follow along now and have a little personal connection with now that we have our guy in Colin Taranga, hopefully leading the charge in the attack. So it'll be cool to see him hopefully knock in a few goals and knowing that RBLR played a small part in that. So James, this is cool stuff. I love it. Go Marshall Islands. I'm all in. I'm sold. We can become a part-time Marshall Islands soccer podcast. There's not a lot going for the Rowdies this year, and if it keeps going that way, we'll just convert full-time, I guess. This is great stuff. So I'm glad, again, if you're listening to this on Twitter, if you have Twitter, if you have any of this, I don't know if they're active on any of the other social medias, but I know for a fact they've really been active on X.
Also on Instagram.
Yeah. They're really easy to find. They're at Soccer Fed MI Marshall Islands. And it's so fun to watch them interact with just the international soccer community. They've been like getting follows and support from quite literally all over the world. It's really, really cool. So good for them. Happy for them. We are the soccer nerds, and I'll wear that tag with pride. This is great stuff. This is awesome. Again, go ahead, check them out. It'll be really cool. That's our Marshall Islands soccer portion of this podcast, James. Anything else to add in there?
No, I think that we have finally exhausted our listeners enough, and we can let them get out of here.
Yeah. By the way, reminder: only less than 1,000 of those really sick retro jerseys for this weekend. All the more reason to be at this game this weekend against Phoenix. It'll be a big, big game for a variety of reasons, like we've talked about. Cheap drinks, retro. What do you call it? Throwback night. Or no, original era night with so many of the legends. I saw a couple of it's really cool to see some of the legends that were involved in that photo shoot for the retro jersey this weekend too. I saw Iron Mike Connell was there with Leo taking a cool picture. Just really cool meeting of the original eras and the modern era here in the present day Rowdies. It'll be really cool. So take advantage of that. Go meet the cool old legends from the 70s. Not old, young at heart, incredible guys. And still a part of the Tampa Bay soccer community. It's great to see. James, that's all I got. Be at that game. It'll be awesome. It'll be great. One more thing to throw in here before we tune out or before we log off for the night. Tampa Bay Soccer Hall of Fame. You know about this, James?
I know about from the Discord.
Yeah. It's cool initiative that's been working on by the local soccer folks in Tampa. They are having their first, inaugural launch dinner this week, actually. Hopefully we'll have someone from RBLR out there to talk about it. They're inducting their initial Tampa Bay Soccer Hall of Fame class. That'll be really cool to see. A couple Rowdies legends in that class as well. So stay tuned for that. Hopefully we can talk about that next week as well and talk about how that went. But James, lots of stuff going on in the Tampa Bay soccer community. Let's make it a win this weekend. We need to get that momentum going. And go Marshall Islands. I'm all in.
There we go. Thank you, listeners, for tuning in. We appreciate when you do. Please follow RBLR Sports on Instagram, Twitter, TikTok, Facebook, Threads, Blue Sky, anywhere. I am mostly on Twitter at RBLR James K. You can use the hashtag AskRBLR, or you can reach Carlos.
at CarlosTPA10 on Twitter. I'm there.
And if you like and subscribe to our podcast, you can get everything in your feed, but also you can get the full experience on YouTube. We are also on Spotify, the iHeartRadio app, Apple and Google Podcasts. Wherever you are, we are there as well. Thank you for tuning in. We expect to win this week for the Marshall Islands, the Rowdies, for all of soccer. Come on, you Rowdies.
Thank you for tuning into this presentation by RBLR Sports. On your way out of the stadium, please remember to like and subscribe.